1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you get the idea, $166 billion in refunds and interest on top of that as well. Even for the US government, it's no small amount, and it's a logistical nightmare because it'll happen over 60 to 90 days. And here's the way it works. Only importers of record can file for the refund. So that's the big companies like Walmart and Costco. You and me, I live in the US, so I paid the tariff at some point, not so.
Okay, so this one is good news and bad news at the same time. So the Supreme Court, as most people know, struck down Trump's most sweeping tariffs. And that was Trump's main economic policy that he ran on. He ran on it before the election, and then he gets in there and he's like, I'm going to do tariffs. And then, he does his whole Liberation Day bullshit. And all of it was totally illegal. You're not allowed to do that. You can't just announce tariffs. And he tried to do some really weird, flimsy legal justification that it was about protecting the United States, which is why he had to do the tariffs. Anyway, I can't remember the whole thing, but CNN is reporting this. So exactly 2 months after the Supreme Court struck down President Trump's most sweeping tariffs, American importers who were owed over $166 billion in refunds plus interest can now begin applying for reimbursement through a new U.S. Customs and Border Protection portal. So, this is a huge blow to Donald Trump. Make no mistake. I mean, this was his whole thing. I'm going to do tariffs. It's going to make us so much money. Never mind the fact that he very clearly does not understand how a tariff works, and it doesn't make anybody more money. He thinks that if I do tariffs on China, for example, that the Chinese government is paying the United States in order to ship their goods here. But that's not the case. The importer is the one who pays the tariff. A tariff is a tax on imports. And so if a U.S. company imports something from China, they pay the tariff. And then in order to mitigate that cost to the company, they pass that cost along to the consumer. Now, the good news is that this has been struck down, and this is a big blow to Donald Trump. But the bad news is this. You got companies now are allowed to apply for refunds plus interest on $166 billion of money that was effectively, taken from them through these tariffs. But they raised their prices, and then who paid the actual cost increase? It was the American consumer. So we pay more because of these stupid, trade war tariff bullshit. The U.S. companies get a bailout from the Supreme Court, and they get to apply to get refunds. And then guess who pays that? That's going to come from the U.S. taxpayer, $166 billion. So everybody, you get a higher cost of goods, and we're going to end up paying the companies through our tax dollars to refund them the money that they supposedly lost. So everybody got double dicked by Donald Trump, and it's so ridiculous. And there's no clear example of the fact that this is just an oligarchy and a kleptocracy. This doesn't hurt anything except Trump's ego. For the companies, they made their money off of raising prices on all of us. They didn't take a massive loss on paper. And now they're saying that hey, we need to apply to get back all this money that we supposedly lost. And they're going to be bailed out by the U.S. taxpayer. And this is the same thing that happened in the financial crisis in 2008. So you get all of these companies that, Wall Street literally doing fraud as a business model. They're selling subprime loans to people, betting on those loans to fail because they know that the people aren't able to afford the assets that they're applying to take a loan on. All of these people default, and then when everything comes crashing down, the asset prices are super, super cheap, and all the Wall Street guys start buying up the assets, all these houses on the super cheap. And so, and what's worse is that, back then Barack Obama did a bailout, and it was a massive top-down bailout, and it was, it was like, well, all of these companies are too big to fail, right? So we have to jump in and bail them out. Meanwhile, people are homeless. They lost their house. There's no bailout for the people that lost their house, and they got screwed over by Wall Street. So anyway, yet again, the government does not work for you or me. They do work for the businesses. They do work for the big corporations, because this, for sure, is a win for the corporations. It's a win for the Epstein class. It is not a win for Donald Trump, but it's also not a win for you and me. So I think they should do some sort of a petition that, like, for however much money extra that everybody spent over the last year and change, we should get a refund check, not the companies, for charging us more. Anyway, guys, that's all I got for this one. My voice is shot again. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.